Today's guest on Leave Your Mark is David Allen. He's designer extraordinaire. He is a Ringgold graduate, a Duquesne graduate. He's a product of Pittsburgh's pride and joy on the designer level. He has made himself quite a name through his working of his fashion shows, his charity events, and he now currently has a podcast. So welcome to the show today, David.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. It's always good connecting with other inspiring entrepreneurs and people that are going against the grain of society. So I appreciate you having me on here.
Yeah, I like that, going against the grain. That's the real deal.
Hi there and welcome. Now it's time for America's favorite podcast, Leave Your Mark, with your host, Vince Cortese.
If it's fly, loose fitted, it's Cortese. If freezing, chubbers in it, it's Cortese.
Leave Your Mark is about inspiring the world, one guest at a time.
Pass the word from Brooklyn to Pittsburgh, from urban to suburb, it's Cortese, you heard?
And here is our host, Vince Cortese.
What I want you to do is just tell me a little bit about yourself, how you came up, who were your influences, and when did the entrepreneurial intuition grip you?
I have such a unique story from a standpoint that I didn't have anybody in my life that was an entrepreneur or that I really knew. I just intuitively had a knack for it. And, you know, I tell a story back in elementary school. I used to buy candy wholesale and sell it in first, second grade, third grade for 50 cents a piece. And so I ended up getting in trouble back, you know, when I was 7 years old, hustling candy in school. And I never appreciated the money aspect of it because I would get it and I would just spend it, but I just enjoyed the building of something. And I learned that at an early age. And then as I started progressing through, you know, high school, I started working at the age of 12. My dad made me get a job on the high school or the school district paint crew where we would paint classrooms, curbs, things like that in the summertime. Then I ended up, you know, getting into, you know, my junior year of high school, I started working at a hardware store. So fortunately, you know, I would say my biggest mentor, my biggest advocate in how I should conduct my life is certainly my dad and also my mom. But my dad at an early age instilled a lot of discipline, more fear of sleeping in because I wasn't allowed. You know, it was almost like running an army camp with him. And
that's always a good motivator.
Well, even it's weird. I always tell people Saturdays and Sundays, it didn't matter if I was in high school or middle school and I stayed up all night at a friend's house. I was up at 7 a.m. on the weekend with my dad and he didn't allow laziness. And as hard as that was as a kid and how much I wish I was able to sleep in and do things, I really was never allowed. And then Sundays we would go to church. So I think that foundation of discipline was instilled at such an early age. And my dad went through hell. He lost his job 4 or 5 times in the 90s and we really struggled. And I think looking back at it as an adult and seeing why he was that way, because it was probably so hard for him to get to where we wanted. And fortunately, he ended up having a great career. So I would say he's probably one of my biggest influences in my entire life. And I actually don't tell him that enough. But he's instilled the core foundations, which has allowed me to thrive and be successful. And got through high school, got into college at Duquesne University, and I still didn't really understand or appreciate the dollar. And it was just, if I had money, I spent money because my mindset was always, I'll just make more money. Right. And I still live with that mindset to an extent. I'm just more strategic with money or revenue that's coming in because now I see the double down, the triple down effect and all those things. So you got into college, ended up graduating from Duquesne University.
Now, what did you take up at Duquesne? What was your major?
Well, I was all over the place. I started at accounting, then I switched to finance, and then I switched to marketing and sports marketing. So I always tell this story. I started out really strong. I think I had a 3.0 or 3.4 my freshman year. And then sophomore year came around and I had a 0.4 and a 0.6.
Okay.
So I was breathing that year. And that was the extent of, what I actually did. I almost quit school. I almost joined the military. I played football for 18 years or 17 years. I played through college. And then after my sophomore year, I realized I wasn't going to be going to the NFL. And I just said, you know what? I don't care about this. This is why I went to college. And I realized, to me, college was a bunch of BS, and in my opinion, and it was just a money-making scheme for a lot of people, and you really didn't learn as much in school.
I think that our era, which you mentioned there, is a pivotal point where the education was beginning to get tested. Because now here we come all these years later, and there's almost no value in all in going to school. And they're talking about the horrible debt. And as you just touched on, you know, people being overpaid or a bit of a scheme to make a lot of money to come to their institutions. So now you're out in the real world. You didn't join the military, you graduated college, and you're killing it. $250K a year doing medical sales. So, I mean, you obviously interview well, you know, you're an entrepreneur, so you're a good talker.
Sure.
And you're from Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh people have got well-rounded personalities. They're very likable. So this probably came very easy for you. And that's in Pittsburgh, 250 grand annually is a nice chunk of change. You can live pretty hardy around here on that kind of money.
When I was 19 or 20, I remember being home for a dinner time, and my brother's 3 or 4 years older than I am. He was home. My family was there. And at the time I was dating a girl, and she was there with my family. And I was just like, you know, by 25 years old, my goal was to make 6 figures. And I remember my brother made a joke about it. And when he was like, "Oh, do you mean stick figures?" And then everybody laughed at me. And I still hold on.
Gotta love the brothers.
Yeah, right. It's just nonstop with siblings. I still hold on to that though, because not a like screw you, but like okay, that's what you said, which is probably how you felt that I couldn't do what I'm doing. Well, by 24 years old, I took a job where it's my first 6-figure job at 24, 25 years old. And then my next goal in life was, by 35 years old, I wanted to be making $250,000 a year. And as I started planning those things prior to getting to that point, I just set a goal. I set rough ideas of what I wanted to do. And to me, the dollar value was the goal. And to me, by achieving those, that was what I considered success at that time, or that's what I considered life was about at that time. So I was fortunate. I did the first job for 2.5 years or so, went from making $100,000 a year to at 26 years old, or 26 going on 27.
That's nice money.
Yeah, I got my first job, and I believe my first W-2 was $252,000 at 27 years old.
That'll get you fired up, especially at that age.
Yeah.
You know, you're in your first decade of life being out on your own, your 20s, and you got more energy than brains. And
sure,
when life turns for you like that, it's like, all of a sudden life feels like it's going to be real easy, and now you've tasted the honey, so to speak. You live in the good life. So when does this entrepreneurial thing grip you? Because it sounds like not shortly after you were doing well and maybe peaked out, you're ready for other things.
Yeah, and I love that question, actually. And not a lot of people have asked me that. So for me, what I started realizing was I wasn't fulfilled. And so I covered all of Western PA, so Harrisburg to Ohio, the border. I covered up to Buffalo, New York, so Western New York, and then the entire state of West Virginia. So my job with that, I sold cameras and lasers to eye surgeons. So my job was to obviously go through the territory, mine for new business, sell product, and so on. So I obviously had a lot of windshield time when I was behind the wheel. So I just, at that point, that was 2013-ish, 2012, in that time frame, and I discovered podcasts, and I just started listening to different podcasts. And so I'd wake up at 6 a.m. on a Monday, and I'd set the GPS for Western New York, and 3.5 hours later, I was in New York, and I would listen to 2, 3, 4 episodes of different podcasts on all these trips. So then what happened, I noticed, was I stopped working my full week, and I would work, I'd drive around, I'd grab coffee. I had no motivation to go into an office, or I had no motivation to stop into an office at 5 o'clock when I'd be like, I'm done at 3 o'clock, or I can wait till 5 o'clock, or keep cold calling till 5 o'clock and maybe make another couple $1,000, or I'm making $250,000 a year by working an average 30-hour week. So I remember thinking to myself, I had colleagues that I was working with same age, different parts of the country, different cities. So the margins were big, or the opportunity was a little bit bigger, but they're making 4, 5, 6. Top guy was making 700, 800,000 a year selling medical equipment. And I was just not impressed by that. And what I kept telling myself was, I could do that. I just don't want to do that. Like, I'm living a good life, making a lot of money, coming and going as I please, travel as I want. And I'm not stressed at all about anything other than numbers towards the end of the year to make sure I could, quote, hide under in the middle of the pack without, being at the bottom of the pack. So then the company would start looking into my schedule, what I'm doing. So I just created this lifestyle for myself that I could coast through it. I could work if I wanted to, I could take days off if I wanted to, and I didn't really care. So I just was bored. Every day I'd leave the house and I just was more entertained with, yes, I'm going to Harrisburg today. I got 3 hours in the car. I can't wait. And I just appreciated the dead time because that was when I started consuming all that knowledge on the podcasts. And really, that's where I think the pivotal change of starting to want to be an entrepreneur was.
As far as your David Allen clothing development, it sounded like the proper knot was your entry into the apparel business, because then the suits and the other things that you do fell into place. But now, okay, you're bored. You've been influenced by the podcast. It's gripped you now. You got it. So where was the idea for the proper knot? Like, how did this come to be where your decision was to be a clother? I look back at mine and I was like, what a fool, because the industry is just so brutal. It's pay to play. And as soon as you have a bad season, you're out, unless you can find a new source of money, you're out. So it's extremely volatile that way. And here you go, you get into it. You're referencing, you don't know how to sew. So you can't find sample makers. They're making them wrong. You're into probably 100 plus sample or plus. And it's like, look at what you just came from and what you just now jumped into. What were you thinking?
Prior to me taking the larger paying medical job, I was still in medical sales, just a smaller scope. And that's when I started my entrepreneurial journey in my adult life. So I was traveling at that time. I was making great money.
How old were you?
I was 24, 25 when I got my first, 6-figure job, roughly around 25 mark.
Okay. And then this proper knot, and how old were you when this began?
So I started that whenever I got into the higher end medical sales job. So, but prior to that, I had came up with an idea. When I would go golfing, I would go into a pro shop and I'd look around and I'd see all these guys spending $100 on a Nike polo that had the country club logo on it. But then I realized, like, nobody's selling neckties in any of these country clubs, but most people are successful business people. Their other side of their life is probably a corporate job, finance, advisors, accountants, whatever it would be. And they probably wore neckties. So I was like, well, that's kind of cool. What about giving them an opportunity not only to wear a Nike polo with the, casually and on Saturday or Sunday, but they're every day, Monday through Friday, creating a product that they can wear to the office that's a talking point for meetings. Excuse me. And so I was like, okay, let's start selling neckties to country clubs with their logo and have them resell it in their pro shop. So I had 3 business partners in that. We did that for about 3 years. It was just a hobby for those guys, which frustrated me. And it really aggravated me. Never would take meetings serious. There was always an excuse why not to go to a meeting. So I just said at the end of that 4 years, I'm doing something on my own. And that's when I saw a necktie that if you tied it a certain way, it would change the look of the knot. But it was one necktie, the same color knot, same color tie every single time. So it was, to me, it was very transparent and obvious that you've worn that product. If you can't wear it at once a week, everybody would know. So I said, I'm wearing the same 5 neckties. I'm not interested in buying more. At that point, I was just like, I've 5, 6, 7, maybe. How can I turn those 5, 6, or 7 neckties into 100? So for a smaller price point. So I said, what about just changing the color of the knot? And that's it. So I started contacting a seamstress. I told her my idea. A week later, she called me and said, hey, I have a prototype for you. And it was literally a piece of elastic with fabric on it. And I was like, boom, this is exactly what I want. And it was, if you showed somebody else, they'd probably like, what the hell is that thing? But it was enough for me to get the vision right. I worked with her for about 2 or 3 months. She kind of gave me the foundations of sewing. And then I was like, all right, cool. Can I contract you to make these for me? Well, what happened was I'd say, hey, we launched a website. We built this product. And she would take, hey, okay, cool. Here's 10 of them. Give me 3 weeks. And I was like, there's no way I could build a business off of that. So at that point, I just made the decision to go to Joann Fabrics, buy a sewing machine, take some classes, and then use YouTube to teach myself how to sew. So then I get into the medical sales job where I was doing very well financially. So then I'd start listening to podcasts. I remember in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, cool. I could take this prop or not product to somewhere if I keep sticking with it. So during the day, I'd be driving around listening to podcasts all day long, gathering information from successful entrepreneurs about things that they've done, experiences that they've been through, and they all started by just starting. And I realized, okay, what I'm going through now in this phase is exactly what Damon John did when he was selling hats out of the trunk of his car in New York and Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah.
And all these other entrepreneurs. So I started doing that a little bit more and more. And that I probably did that solo for about eight months or so. And then I realized, okay, this is going to be harder than I think. I need to get another product that allows me to make more money and gets me out of my day job faster. I just don't know what that is, because selling a $19 product I'm going to have to sell thousands.
The volume's going to have to be there. Yeah.
Yep. So I remember I was out in St. Louis co-traveling with a sales rep friend of mine, and he had a pair of black pants on, and he had a gray jacket, white dress shirt. And every other time I've ever worn anything, I've always worn full suits. I never went with the blazer slack look. And every single office we went into, he got complimented. And I was like, all right, that's actually pretty cool. So I went home the next week and I bought the same outfit. And then I started wearing that out to my territory. So instead of me working from 10:30 in the morning till 2, I was like, I want to get up a little earlier today. I want to be seen. Let me go to a coffee shop at 7 a.m. Let me work till 5 or 6 o'clock because I just want to be out and about. Because everywhere I went, I got compliments on my outfit. So it made, look good, feel good, play good, that type of mentality. So then I started realizing, wow, that's pretty awesome. I should at least make suits so I can sell them to friends of mine and make $100 profit. So then I could, or $200 profit. So then I could get an inexpensive suit that's essentially paid for by my friends. So then I don't have to pay for anything and I can have this awesome wardrobe. So that's really how I started the clothing brand. Well, in that process, so I met somebody from one of the local newspapers who was a sports writer and did a lot with the WWE. And he reached out to me and said, hey, I was sending him proper knots and he was wearing them on his internet show every week. So him and I built a relationship for 6 or 7 months. And then one day WWE came to Pittsburgh and Justin called me and said, hey, I'm friends with Titus O'Neil. He's a WWE wrestler. He loves fashion. He loves suits. Would you like to meet him? So Justin set up a meeting with me at the Marriott next to PPG Paints Arena where the Penguins play. And that's where WWE was. And I ended up meeting Titus there. And he bought, I think, 10 suits the first time I met him. And he, asked me about my business. I was like, yeah, I got this business. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. Things are great. Would love to work with you. And I just kind of played that up as if I knew what I was doing. Excuse me. And had no idea what I was doing.
At this point, though, he's the entryway into your posse. Now, share with me, because this really explodes from this point for you, because the idea of having the personalities and the people around and the events that you began to create, you just jump to the next level. So now does this something that just sort of happens naturally, or is this now after you meet Titus, you begin to think, well, you know what, he's got friends and they've got friends and so on and so on. How does this progress?
So whenever I first had an opportunity to meet with Titus, I don't want to say I didn't even want to take it. It was more or less, man, I wish this was an NFL player. I wish this was an NBA player. And that was what I thought. But I was like, but this could lead me to something. I don't know what it could yet. And then I started thinking about it. And I was like, well, he's a celebrity. He's got fans. He's got people that follow him. And it's great for credibility. So I knew at some point it would lead me to other opportunities. I didn't know when, I didn't know how, and I didn't know where. I just knew that it would. Also, whenever I work with people, I've never in my entire life asked anybody for anything, even Titus. And my goal has never shifted. I still don't do that. I try to work with someone and build a friendship first and foremost, because I appreciate them giving me an opportunity to earn their business, number one. Number two is, if I do a good enough job and they're happy and they are truly my friends, they're going to tell people about me anyway without me asking.
Right.
Because I don't have expectations of anybody building this for myself other than me. And if I have expectations of getting all this help from other people, I would have failed long ago, because I would have been sitting around and waiting. So I saw this as a standpoint of, okay, the WWE community from a audience standpoint, they're not suit wearers, right? But the credibility of working with a celebrity or an athlete in today's world is very, very powerful.
Yes, it is.
So I also realized that a lot of these people are former athletes in the NFL, college football, college basketball, whatever it is. So they're probably pretty plugged in. And there's also a huge audience of WWE celebrities and athletes that love it.
I mean, that WWE it's a monster. They could probably compete against the NFL.
Yeah.
The fan base and the numbers are equivalent, or maybe even bigger, because it's more of a universal interest.
Yep.
And it's better than soap operas. I personally was a fan all the way back when San Martino was champ.
Sure.
So I'm kind of dating myself, but it was something that I enjoyed watching for entertainment value, as well as, you know, you mentioned these guys were athletes. You were watching them doing stunts and, you know, things that only an athlete could do.
Right.
So, and they're extremely large on personality. You couldn't get up there and go on an open mic and give your opponent the business the way these guys could in a natural way. I mean, these were some incredible pontificators.
They are insanely talented.
Yes.
And WWE athletes do so much behind the scenes that people have no idea. They're some of the most talented and skilled athletes I've ever seen. And they're also some of the most talented and skilled entertainers that I've ever seen. And that was what's been really cool, is to see what it actually is like in the day of in the life of a WWE superstar.
Like a John Cena. You have John Cena you're working closely with now, and you've worked your way up. How many athletes do you have that wear the David Allen suits?
I don't know. I would say over 100 right now. Something
that's exciting. And that you're saying this is really from 2013 and beyond. So, I mean, that's a small window, and that's quite an array of talent that you've got lined up there. So that's kind of leads me to your next question. So how has the COVID situation affected your business? Because a lot of what you're doing is face-to-face, and we're just in a new window of economics at the moment. And, you know, I mean, you have the entrepreneurial skill and the good instincts, how to shift and pivot your energies. So explain to me kind of how or where you're at now.
When COVID first started happening, it's crazy. The week before the shutdown, which was like the week of March 7th or something like that of 2020, I was in Washington, D.C. on a Sunday. I was doing a really big project for The Undertaker, and it was supposed to be his retirement match that was at WrestleMania. So they contracted me to do, it was the first time ever they were rebranding him for his, you know, out into the sunset type flow. And so I was in DC Sunday and Monday. Monday, I flew from DC to Los Angeles. I had a dinner on Tuesday night in LA with COO of Capitol Records Music. And then the next day I flew from there to Miami for another big meeting with some NFL people. And then I flew home on March 13th, which was that Friday. And then I believe the shutdown happened on March 16th, which was the Monday, 14th. Yeah, the 16th, which was the Monday after that. That was the first time in 6 years that I've stopped working, because we had to, right? Everything was shut down. We were ordered to shut down. Every business was shut down. So the first 10 days, the 2 weeks of that, I was kind of like, this is awesome. You know, I don't feel guilty for not working. And also nobody can get ahead of me right now because there's nobody that could do anything. And that was really how I looked at it. And then once 12, 13, 14 days started passing, I was like, okay, this sucks. Like, maybe it's another 2 weeks, we'll be back at it. Maybe it's another month, we'll be back at it. I just can't sit here anymore. I'm losing my mind. Well, then fast forward to April 4th, 3rd or 4th, whatever that Thursday was, I had a call with my team. And I said, it looks like suits are going to be done for a while. The restrictions are happening more. You're starting to hear all this pander in the media. So I could tell something was coming. So I just said, I called my 2 business partners I have a marketing business, and I called them and I said, and they do a lot of my creative. They do a lot of my digital targeting, things of that nature for the clothing. And I said, like, I think we need to really launch a mask business. I said, I really, really think we do. So we had a bunch of shirts purchased, like the roll of shirts, and we're not selling them. We had no sales in the beginning of April. I think April we sold $1,200 or $1,500 for coming off of 6 figures a month down to $1,500 a month. So I started really cautioning that something big was happening in a problematic way. So we came up with the idea on a Friday at like 2 p.m. And then I had my team working 24 hours. By 11 a.m., we had a website, we had a new company, and we had logistics set up to manufacture masks. We launched our business on that Saturday at like noon. I shared my post one time, and it was shared hundreds and hundreds of times. We did $55,000 in sales in 24 hours with our face masks. And it was like, okay, this is pretty crazy. This is going viral. At that time, nobody else made masks. We were one of the first players into the game, and we were able to really capitalize on a timing perspective, but also we were very fearful because at that time you didn't know if you got the disease. Did you pass over instantly? Did you die? There was a lot of fear, and it was a very humbling experience because the amount of calls, what I saw from humanity at that time was so much fear, and that's why I'm very frustrated with where we are now with the whole situation, because I was getting calls back then from elderly people left and right, didn't know how to work a computer. I had people leave their credit card information, their address information on a voicemail to me, on emails to me. I was calling these people back saying, don't ever do that again. Like, you're lucky that we're not the type of people to take this, but like, you can't do that. I remember my team personally driving hours all over the region to physically hand distribute masks to elderly because they couldn't leave their house. And that was their only feel for comfort. It was very, very rewarding, but sad.
Yeah.
So we ended up switching our business. At that point, you know, our turnaround time, we thought it would be 7 days from the time you would order to the time it would arrive. It ended up being 2.5 to 3 weeks. So then we would get trashed on social media that we were a scam and we were stealing people's money. But at that time, you know, you're talking a global pandemic. Shipping was terrible. Manufacturing was terrible. We couldn't get stuff in fast enough based off the volume of sales that we were doing. So then we told everybody on our team, look, you're a customer service company now. Answer every single comment, answer every single question, answer every single phone call. And I give my team a lot of credit because that 30-day, 60-day window from April 5th to whatever, the amount of harassment, negative stuff that we received until product started getting into people's hands. And that was like, wow, these are the best masks we've ever had. Thank you so much for getting to these. We're thankful that we waited, blah, 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 all that. So you start seeing human rationale start taking place. But when there was so much fear and uncertainty in the beginning, you got a lot of negativity and honestly disturbing messages from people. It was really weird.
Well, you're being a Pittsburgh person, the integrity comes through first. So I'm with you on that. You want to be authentic and you want to do what you say you're going to do. And those are old values. You have a lot of that doesn't go on the internet and that people aren't very genuine. So now you're cruising through this. I want you to share with me a little bit about your podcast, Common Threads, because you've got a handful of episodes together. You're up and rolling. And it's a very interesting podcast. Can you share with me what it's about?
To kind of backstep here a minute, as I was running around with my suit business and I was meeting with CEOs, executives, decision makers within organizations, I kept hearing the constant, hey, I'm spending $5,000 a month on marketing, $5,000 a month on advertising, and I'm getting no results. very frustrated, blah, blah, blah. So I become a therapist for a lot of people that I go and, you start building a friendship, you start venting to, you start hearing these complaints coming back and back. So I decided at that point to launch a marketing business with my now 2 business partners, because they do everything that we did in the clothing business was solving the problem that all these people that I was delivering product to were experiencing. So that led us to start the marketing business. Marketing business progresses for a year and a half. I've always wanted to do a podcast because I realized how much that changed my life and the information that it brought to me being able to do what I'm doing full time and how valuable it was. So I wanted to partner with my marketing partners in the podcast venture because I wanted to not only just talk to cool entrepreneurs and people that I work with, but also to really provide value and detail. So the podcast is called the Common Threads Podcast. And essentially it's about commonalities between entrepreneurs, business people, anything in the business world. But also I'm fortunate to have so many celebrities and athletes and successful high-end people in my Rolodex now that I want that side of things to be seen too, because there's so much commonality between them and us as well. Just like us, they're everyday people. For them to get successful, they had to go through a lot of obstacles, just like any entrepreneur. So that's really the gist of it, is just sharing stories of things that people have been through and done to get to where they are, and to express the commonalities of the success and the opportunities to do that. And we just story tell.
Yeah, I enjoyed a couple of your episodes you had there. Now, you also work with a lot of charities. I see you have some internet videos there where you're working with the American Cancer Society, and you've done really well. Let's talk a little bit about your events and how they're a little different now with the COVID situation.
When I started this back in 2016 was our first fashion show that we did. And I was a part of the American Cancer Society, and I was raising money for this campaign called Real Men Wear Pink. And it's for breast cancer awareness. And I was like, this would be kind of cool. I have to come up with money to raise money for an event to donate to the Cancer Society. I said, I'm in clothing now, I'm in fashion. We have some cool clients. We should just throw a fashion show and see if we could actually pull something like this off. And I had no idea what was coming from this. I had no clue. I just was confident that we could throw a cool party and something different that nobody's ever seen before in Pittsburgh. And the first event we had, I think 9 or 10 celebrities. And then we had some local, another 9 or 10 local newscasters, people with a presence in Pittsburgh. And I remember my mom told me the story that the first night we had our event in the Strip District of Pittsburgh, and it was in October, and my dad and mom were driving down to it, and my dad was saying something like, I hope people show up to this.
Just a sidebar, your dad has a very interesting video with you. I think the link is off of YouTube. You folks out there listening to this, you want to listen to the video and see what kind of relationship David has with his father. So that's a little sidebar, but go ahead, finish.
Yeah, he was, I don't want to say my dad was not supportive of me doing any of this stuff, but he knew what I was up against and he knew what I was giving up. So from a father's perspective, I would assume it'd be hard to watch that, right? So
he expresses himself well.
Yeah, for sure. He's very vocal. He doesn't hold back either. So we, I remember them saying, I hope people show up. And I didn't know at that point, I wasn't working with these athletes for that long, less than a year. And I've only met them once or twice in that time frame. And I just figured I figured of the athletes that I knew of the WWE in particular, who were more friendly with each other, who would be more prone to travel if they were all going together. So I strategically made sure I put them in clusters. So as the day unfolds on that first event, it was a Friday, I was just watching planes take off, and I was like on the app, and I was like, okay, this person's on this plane, I hope they made it. This person's on this plane, I hope they made it. Because I didn't know if they were even going to show up. And then fast forward to that evening, it was one of the most humbling experience. We had over 300 people at the first event.
Wow. I guess your dad was pleased with that.
Honestly.
Where was the location for that?
It was in the Strip District at a place called Room 16 on 16th and Smallman.
Okay.
And I mean, it was, we had 100 feet of pink carpet for breast cancer awareness. We had the
cool.
repeats. We had a girl playing outside on the red carpet on a viola violin. It was everything that I wanted that feel to be. The minute you got out of your car and you stepped onto the carpet, I wanted this high-end experience. So as the general public was coming in, we'd stop the line, a limo would pull up, and then we would escort the celebrities out so then they could stop and take pictures of them when they're going through.
You're like a seasoned pro.
It was crazy.
For the first one, that's exactly how you do those things,
Yeah,
but, so when's the opportunity for something like that happen again now?
That we don't know. We're working on right now for 2019, we weren't able to have one, or excuse me, 2020, we weren't able to have one, obviously. My goal is if we could do it the fall of this year or springtime of next year. Things really have to open up a lot by the time middle to end of May rolls around, and then we're going to be in a pinch to pull this off in the fall. So hopefully the fall of 2021, we could do something. I have my eyes set on potentially shutting down the Roberto Clemente Bridge in Pittsburgh and doing it on the bridge. So every year we just try to do something bigger than the previous. And since we missed last year, I want this one to be a screamer for sure.
I believe you're creative enough to come up with something here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, you have a resilience, and you are an entrepreneurial dream in that your ability to problem solve and to cut your way through what the issues would stop most people. You can feel your drive. You're a very passionate person. It's fun to talk to you. Fun to listen to your ideas. So what I want to do then is just wrap up here today, and I always ask this question before I close. And how would you like to leave your mark in this world? How would you like to be remembered?
I love that question a lot, because everything that I've done, and I'm not anywhere where I want to be. I'm not even close to where I want to be. I'm not close to where I want to go, but I wake up every single day happier than I've ever been. What I've learned through this whole process is nothing differentiates me from anybody else on planet Earth. And I truly believe that. And through this venture, it's been the most challenging experience in my life. Back in 2017, I started telling about this after the fact. I was never comfortable with it, but I was going through some mentally challenging times, and I took an insurance policy out on my life in 2017, and I never had the intentions of hurting myself. There were a couple of times where it got really dark and I didn't want to be here anymore, but it wasn't bad enough where I would have done anything. But what I did do is I stopped paying attention as much when I would be driving. So I would go through a stop sign, not coast through it, but I would go through it a little bit faster than I should. I'd look less because I was just so lost. And I was just like, if something happens to me, at least my family doesn't have to pay my debt. The insurance will cover it. I can get out of this mess and I don't have to deal with the struggle anymore. So that was so dark for me, but I never stopped looking after other people along the way, even in the darkest times. And I think the biggest thing that I could get out to anybody is, if you wake up every day trying to help other people be successful, or at least being good to people every single day, the rest of whatever happens in your life is honestly just a bonus. I don't care if I become a multimillionaire times 100, or if I could just pay my bills every single day for the rest of my life and do what I do. And I love this. I've had money, I've lost money, I've been broke, and I've had a decent amount of money. I've never been truly, truly wealthy in the eyes of, a dollar value, but I'm wealthier now than I've ever been in my entire life by understanding I love building things. I love the process of building things, and I love people, and I love helping people. Anything else outside of that is a bonus. So I think if I could leave that with somebody, as far as putting other people in front of you and leading by example, are two of the most crucial things from overall happiness. And that really, money doesn't mean everything to you. It certainly makes your life easier. But when you wake up every day struggling because you're broke, but you're doing something that you really enjoy, your life is more fulfilled than it is if you had millions of dollars in the bank. Now you just have to make that decision to see what makes the most sense on how you want to live your life. And if you have to provide for someone or a family or whatever it is, everybody's scenario is different, but always taking care of people, always doing what's right. And I just want to be known as somebody that's done things the right way. And I've never cheated anybody. I've never hurt anybody. I've never screwed anybody over. And if you operate your life authentically every single day, I don't think there's anything that you could do that's wrong.
You reek of integrity, David Allen.
Thank you.
That's excellent. It's refreshing to hear in this day and age. You are who you say you are. You're a real person, and I can't tell you how much I admire that. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that, and that's one thing I'll leave to with everybody is I've been burned by a lot of people in the last 5-6 years. I've had people ask for things, handouts. People have asked me for money and I've turned it down. And then all of a sudden they've had negative things to say about me. I've helped a lot of people along the way because I've wanted to. And the one thing that we all have is integrity. And that's the only thing that we can control. Even in times back in 2017, when I had $50 in my name and I had a suit that needed remade, that wasn't necessarily my fault. And it might've been the client's fault. I still always took the loss and I made sure the client was satisfied because I believed in the long-term gain of this business. And I believe integrity is the only thing that we have in this world. And especially in today's day and age with social media, everybody trying to one up somebody else. You are. And I will take it to the grave that I truly believe I'm a good person and all I care about is being good and better every single day. And I don't care how many people have burned me in the past. I'll never change that. I'll take those as life lessons to make me have even more integrity moving forward.
Well, you're an inspiration to all of us that want to be entrepreneurial and follow our instincts. So I appreciate you giving me your time today. I know you're a busy man, and I look forward to see what you got going on next. Awesome. And I'm going to have to, make sure I get one of those invites because I want to come and get up on some of that energy you got rolling. It's a good place to be. And you could tell that people like being around you and they like working with you. I encourage people to watch your videos you got up on your YouTube there and check out your podcast because he's the real deal, folks. Thanks again for coming by, David.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate all you do and best of luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to Leave Your Mark today. Tune into our next episode of Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese. Be blessed.
You just left your mark. Thanks for listening. Listen to more episodes on demand. Just click Leave Your Mark with Vince Cortese.